Famous for the railways, for the shipyards, and for mining, Sir Bobby Robson, George Stephenson, and the Ibiza final boss. North East England has a proud history, but this is arguably the most forgotten corner of England. I went to investigate the places that got the most criticism online and in the media, and I present to you my absolute rankings of the top 10 worst places in the northeast of England. Number 10, Sunderland. Sunderland lived up to its name on the sunny Sunday I arrived. It was a lovely summer's day, but the city centre was very quiet. I put this down to being a Sunday and the women's doubles Wimbledon quarterfinals not being very interesting, and decided to come back to the city centre the following day to check it out. I went across the Wearmouth Bridge and stopped to check out the metro crossing and make myself look like a complete train spotting nerd in the process. Over the other side of the river, legendary Sunderland AFC manager Bob Stokoe welcomed us with open arms to the Stadium of Light. Sunderland's showpiece ground. Anyone who has seen the Netflix show Sunderland Till I Die will know just how important the football club is to the community here, and that is displayed with the memorial statue and this plaque inside the ground. The Black Cats, as they are known, have just been promoted to the Premier League as of 2025, and their playoff trophy is on display in the stadium foyer. After that, I headed through the area of Roker. This old mining hall now does jiu-jitsu classes, and this pub coming up, the Fort, does bargain prices on booze. Well, at least they're bargains to me. I'm from down south, and I haven't seen these kind of prices outside of Wetherspoons since about 2005. Roker Park is where the old football ground used to be, and the part that probably surprises most people about Sunderland is the beach. Roker Beach is a wide, sandy beach where the locals like to go for what they call a plodge. That's a paddle to anyone else. The northeast in general is very underrated for its beaches, and this was more proof of that. It was a lot busier down here than it was in the city centre. The harbour here is also pretty nice. This would have been dockyards and shipbuilding facilities not so long ago. Since deindustrialisation, it's been turned into a marina. There's a bunch of art installations like this one. This is called the Red House, which I initially thought was something like Sunderland's version of Pompeii, although I believe it depicts a bombed out house during World War II, which would make sense as Sunderland did come under a lot of heavy bombing. Further down the river is the National Glass Centre, a free art gallery, and shortly after that you come up to the university. This pile of concrete blocks here was unveiled by the Queen to celebrate the opening of the campus. The shadows in another light sculpture is a tree made out of recycled steel. And this huge sculpture is of a steelworker and his granddaughter overlooking the River Wear. I got in between them here just to show you how large the sculpture actually is. So, nice beach, marina, tons of artwork and some nice walks. Well, Sunderland was impressing so far. The following day. It was Monday morning and the sun was gone. A large chunk of the riverside I'd wanted to explore was under construction to the tune of £3 billion. So you can expect to see a lot more modern buildings like this one in the future. This is great because, as you can see, there's a lot of wasteland here. Another area of the riverside I wanted to check out was closed completely, so annoyingly, after walking a mile, I had to double back on myself in the rain. As you can see here, Sunderland is an up-and-coming city. The modern city hall contrasts with the St Peter's Church, which dates back to 674 AD, and it's one of the oldest churches in the country. We head now down the high street towards the east end, and it's a bit shabby. This building in Sunnyside, way past its best, as is the building next door. This area was a bit of a ghost town, and it's right on the edge of the city centre. Whether it's always like this or whether the weather was keeping everyone indoors, I don't know. Either way, it was pretty gloomy. Sambuca seems a strange name for a restaurant, and the price of a 3-course meal was off-putting to say the least. Sunderland is famed for its shipbuilding. Here at the Port of Sunderland and its pointless bus stop, I was the only person around, but I was pleased to see the local pub was still open and doing business. The old railway station was closed and replaced by more pointless bus stops. The town moor was a public area where savage so-called sports such as bull baiting took place. Bull baiting involved dogs fighting bulls for entertainment purposes. Other sports including bear baiting, which is the same as bull baiting but with a chained up bear, and Shrove Tuesday football, where 2 teams fought over a stuffed ball. The area back in the day was described as a slum and alcoholism was rife. Tough times indeed. The Holy Trinity Church here, built in 1719, is now used as an entertainment venue, with events ranging from Vivaldi and the Four Seasons to a jazz club. Nice. Orphanage here was built for boys whose fathers had died at sea. Most of these kids would be sent straight to the workhouse. This is no doubt a gritty end of town, but it has tons of character and atmosphere. Hopefully it retains this look and doesn't get too many of these modern high-rises that ruin the feel. A bit further inland and it becomes a bit more modern, and in this street every single shop had the shutters down. I'd read online that Athol Road was like a bad day in Syria, and peering down there was an ambulance with the light on at the end of the street. I then got distracted by the Ivy Leaf Club next door, a massive derelict building. A pretty cool boxing mural here. We're in the heart of Hendon, the most notorious part of Sunderland here. Back up Athol Road, and it turns out there was a police car there as well as the ambulance, which was just about to leave. And there she goes. It did feel like quite a rough area, but you'll see much worse later in this video. And what I like about rough areas is you get bargain food like this. The people of Hendon are proud, hard-working and tough people who have lost their main industries and have seemingly been forgotten about. There's a lot of religious buildings, this synagogue, church, and this one coming up, believe it or not, is a gurdwara, this one here. General Havelock overlooks the city, as does this homeless person's tent. More building work going on. You can see Sunderland is a city on the up. Mowbray Park was colourful despite the moody weather. And Sunderland has a winter gardens too. It's currently undergoing a bit of a renovation. If you ask me, the whole of the city centre needs a big renovation. There's a lot that's shuttered or boarded up, and it really lets the city down. It's all well and good redeveloping the riverside, but what about the city centre? And it's the same story across the country. Out of town developments getting priority over the high street. This is the Sunderland Minster, and we're heading into the cultural area now. So that's the nicest part of the city centre. It's got the 2 theatres, the Empire and the fire station, and some nice bars and restaurants. The Bridges shopping centre was okay. It's a shopping centre, and the car park on the roof gave a good view over the city. Kill Square was built in 2015, a public space that drew a lot of controversy for the cost of it. This is the Gancanny sculpture depicting a worker from the old Vaux brewery located opposite and was closed down in 1999. Back on the shopping streets then, and well, there's not that much shopping to actually be done. It makes you wonder if these high streets will ever recover. The Green Street arcade is shut down ostensibly for maintenance, but will it ever open again? Who knows? The city centre is very dated, and even the odd modern building looks pretty rubbish. Luxury student apartments coming up that were supposed to be opening last year, 2024. You can't really blame the students for not wanting to live in a city centre that looks like this. Remember the days when everyone used the landline and didn't bother with the area code, and quite often they didn't use the town code either? When was that? 1992 maybe? The old post office was a grand building, as were some of the houses here in Sunnyside Gardens. After walking around for a while, I bumped into the same guy about 3 times. A fella in the blue, just been walking around shouting at nobody in particular. Blandford Street had looked nice from a distance, but was disappointing up close. But at least someone had tried to give it a bit of colour. There was only one thing left to do in Sunderland, and that was to try the local speciality, a saveloy dip. Bloody delicious it was too, a saveloy with peas pudding and a bun dipped in gravy for £3. Absolutely banging. Let's move on to the next place. Number 9, Shildon. You might never have heard of Shildon, but it has a very important place in history. Almost exactly 200 years from the time of this video, in September 1825, the first passenger train in the world, locomotive number 1, driven by George Stephenson, departed Shildon en route to Stockton. The Locomotion Museum next door to Shildon Railway Station has free admission and more locos on display than the Colombian prison riot. The museum is vast and has a wealth of information on the world's first railway town and what conditions were like back in the day. I could do with one of these stickers for myself. Anyways, I'm here to give an appraisal of the town, not the museum. So, let's get out of here and see what it's like. So first off, Shildon has a pretty high crime rate. It's only a small town of about 10,000, but in August 2025, several people were part of a gang that got sentenced for smuggling £13 million worth of cocaine into the country. As you can see, there's litter and boarded up buildings, and this local has decided what they'd like to do with this particular boarded up building. Up towards the town, which is a bit of a distance from the museum and the railway station, it looks like another town that was once nice but has fallen on hard times. This is the former railway coach house, which lies derelict here, as do plenty of other buildings. The town centre itself is actually okay in places. It's got a nice church and that steel archway there, and a nice memorial. This little roundabout is a centrepiece here, and it's also got a statue to Timothy Hackworth, the first superintendent of the local railway. He also has a pub named after him, which is currently closed down and on the market for 90 grand. The town centre is quiet. There's not that many people out doing their shopping. I believe most people would do their shopping in probably Darlington or Bishop Auckland. And you know things are bad when the Costa is closed down. To be frank, the town is pretty dire. The saving grace is, of course, the Locomotive Museum. Other than that, there isn't really much reason to visit Shildon. So off back to the station we go. Number 8 is Thornaby on Tees. Sorry about the shadow there. I was heading along a beautiful riverside trail into Thornaby. I read this sign that said you can win £50 if you grass on a fly tipper, which made me wish I'd seen the person that burnt out this no doubt stolen motorbike. This is the Tees retail park with all the fast foods you can shovel down you. An old building, a nice church and a nice house. And coming up, some graffiti calling someone a grass. Now, I just want to talk about this for a second. So this kind of graffiti is rife in this area. Basically, in any rough area, if someone gets labelled a grass or a nonce, they get outcast. So for non-British viewers, a grass is a snitch and a nonce is a paedophile. Whether the labels stick on these people is judged by the council, kangaroo court, and evidence is rarely important. So an easy and pretty cowardly way to tarnish someone's name is to scribble graffiti like nonce or grass. Anyway, moving on, we've got a boarded up house here, dirty pavement, bit of traffic, and we're coming up to Thornaby town centre. That thing in the middle used to be called the Golden Eagle Hotel. The hotel's been derelict for years and it's just started to be demolished. It has to be done in stages, however, due to high levels of asbestos. There's tons of fly tipping, rubbish and graffiti on the outside, and you can find pictures online of the smashed up, vandalised inside. It should be completely demolished by spring 2026. Bit of dodgy graffiti here, 666, a sign of the devil, free whoever that is as, and the postcode TS17. Back at the shopping precinct and some superb prices at the butcher's, 4 sirloin, 4 gammon, 4 pork steaks and 16 of either Cumberland or pork and leek sausage. Sign me up. Some slightly melancholy live music for you there. Here's a view of the very 70s looking shopping precinct from above. Right, we'll head out into the residential areas now. So Thornaby has a population of 25,000. It's very close to both Stockton-on-Tees and Middlesbrough. Some very interesting homes here, like shipping containers almost, stacked onto one another. TS17 is the local postcode, and presumably some gang stuff is why it's graffitied everywhere. This is Thornaby South, which is reportedly the most deprived area, not just Thornaby, but the whole borough of Stockton. Aside from the basic housing and some fly tip slides and sofas and trolleys, it didn't seem that bad. Right, so we're back at some more conventional housing now, and oh look, 2 more grasses, and this one's a pussy as well. This small area has a corner shop, bookies and a pub. What more do you need? Oh yeah, chippy as well. Thornaby had an aerodrome between 1930 and 1958, hence the Spitfire, safely fenced off from any vandals. There's also a memorial to all those who served. Quite a large park here, looking nice in the sun, well, sort of nice in the sun, and wow, what's happened here? A row of takeaways here with a barber's right in the middle. 2025 Britain encapsulated right there. Swimming pool, church, derelict house, someone's grass, souped up motor, someone's grass, low-key mosque, a Catholic centre, and a very patriotic area here. War memorials, murals and flags. and this was back before it became uber fashionable to fly flags. There's a war museum and a pub here, neither of which were open sadly, as the pictures online look fantastic. This is the Thornaby council building here, bit of wasteland. Thornaby railway station, from where trains go all over the north of England. The Queen's campus of Durham University is here. It's very quiet as it was outside of term time. The Infinity Bridge was also quiet, with it being closed. There's 3 Henry Weston Vintage Super Strength 8.2 cider bottles sitting on a bench. And that's it for Thornaby. This is a man scratching his arsehole at Stockton-on-Tees. The reason I showed you that is because, as you can see here, it was a beautiful day in Stockton, and as I took the train slightly north, a dank mist descended as I arrived into number 7, Hartlepool. So not only had the weather got gloomy, but so had the entire vibe here in Hartlepool. So this is Church Street. Now, it may have the word church in the name, but this was like the village of the damned. Once ornate buildings and proud buildings are now like the dying embers of a post-apocalyptic world. It reminds me of the line spoken by Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie Blood Diamond. God left this place a long time ago. For those that think I'm being melodramatic or clutching at pearls, I'd urge you to go visit and see for yourselves, then report back. At the end of the street, at least there's one building that's in decent nick. This is the Northern School of Art. I headed down towards the seafront now, where all this crap has just been left on the lawn by the car wash. And that was opposite the Northern Studios, where plans have been mooted for a TV and movie village to revitalise Hartlepool, where if they need to film a zombie apocalypse movie, they've got Church Street all set up and ready to go. Or maybe even a war movie. Here they've already got the no man's land and poppies are already growing. Now I'm sure this beach would look nicer on a sunny day, of course it would, if there is such a thing as a sunny day in Hartlepool. This area is the West Quay, and it's relatively nice in that sort of uniformly stereotypical way that town marinas have. Of course, it wouldn't be a town marina without a shopping trolley upturned in the sludge. So yeah, the marina area here is okay. There's a few people here learning to do stand-up paddleboarding. Sadly, nobody fell off to give us a bit of a chuckle and lighten the mood. These are the old dock offices, built in 1846 and now flats. P.S. Wingfield ship and go on, fall in, go on. Oh, the Mecca is here. How big does a bingo hall really need to be? Travelodge, View Cinema, everywhere you go, it's the same old damn franchise. And back in town, I'm glad to say that the church that gave its name to Church Street was in better nick than the street. The statue there is of William Cray. This is the first mayor of Hartlepool. And look at the state of Mr. Pizza here. Look at this building. Unbelievable. The Wetherspoons is doing okay, of course. And let's have a look around the back streets, which are kind of what you'd expect, really. This town really has had a tough old time. Down this back alley, I wasn't expecting to find David Bowie and Liam Gallagher. There's only so much you can show of these boarded up buildings, but trust me, there are tons. I haven't seen a place with more than Hartlepool, I don't think. The busy A689 runs right through the middle of town. Middleton Grange is the main shopping centre, opened in 1970. And from the get-go, there's closed units. More closed here, but at least we're told where to go to get our Maccas. In here it's just as post-apocalyptic as Church Street. Just to point out, this was on a Saturday, maybe 11, 12 o'clock in summer. All this stuff you can find in the market hall. Well, you used to be able to, but you can't anymore because it's been closed for about a year now. The very definition of getting your face smashed in. Hartlepool is an interesting one because it's almost like 2 or even 3 separate places. This is the new town we're in now, which initially was called West Hartlepool. It was created in 1835, close to the Durham coalfields and the newly built railway and port. Hence, none of the architecture you see here is particularly old, most of it being from the mid-20th century. Even the odd building with a bit of character like the Bingo isn't faring well, and there's no way that's going to compete with the Mecca behemoth back at the marina. The new town of Hartlepool is up there with the worst that I've ever seen. In a book called You Are Awful, but I Like You by Tim Moore, the author who travels across the most unloved parts of Britain calls Hartlepool the worst place that he visited. It certainly made me wonder how sports presenter and Hartlepool native Jeff Stelling was so happy all the time. Perhaps it's because he'd left the place. The local football team is called Hartlepool United. They play at the Prestige Group Stadium, formerly known as the Victoria Ground, and they're known as the Monkey Hangers, but we'll talk more on that shortly. Never say die is the motto, but I think it's too late for Church Street for that. The team used to be called Hartlepools United, as the old and the new towns were considered separate places back then. They currently play in the 5th tier of English football. We go back to the port along this filthy road and then stumble across this statue. It's said that during the Napoleonic Wars, a French ship was wrecked just off Hartlepool and the sole survivor was a monkey dressed in French uniform. The locals, having never seen a monkey nor Frenchman before, decided the best course of action was to hang the poor bugger. This is the posh part of the marina with some nice restaurants, and don't worry, no stags were hung as far as I'm aware. The Royal Navy Museum is in Hartlepool, as is HMS Trincomalee, which is over 200 years old, and it's the last Navy ship to be built in India. I was now en route to the original Hartlepool, the old town, which is now known as the Headland. Sadly, I'd underestimated how bloody far it was. Never mind, I came across this. So this is a whole row of pretty modern homes, all smashed up and been clearly burnt out. Metal guards have been put up on the doors and the windows to stop more people getting in and trashing it. What a disaster. The fences just torn down, and the metal guards, as you'll see in a moment, clearly haven't done their job, and it's not a great advert for the security company. Out of curiosity, I looked on Google Street View at this area, and these houses were boarded up at that time, which was 12 years ago, but they hadn't been set on fire at that point. It does make you wonder how, in one of the richest countries in the world, there are places like this. God only knows what happens here at night time. I can look after myself, but I wouldn't be coming down here at night alone. Alright, so we're now in the Headland, and look at that logo there for Boxing Club. I'd only been here about 5 minutes and I already liked the Headland more than I liked Hartlepool Newtown. This is the 12th century St Hilda's Church. I don't know what this building is called, but what I do know is I won't be walking underneath it. And that's why. Hartlepool Docks is on the right hand side here, and you'll notice that all the smog and the gloom that was in Hartlepool town has cleared, and it's now a bright sunny day. The houses are colourful and the people seem happier. This is more like Cornwall than the Hartlepool that I've been to. This place is called the Pot House. I thought I'd stumbled into Amsterdam for a moment. Andy Capp has been a cartoon in the Daily Mirror since 1957, a work-shy, belligerent, drunken layabout from Hartlepool, always getting himself into little scrapes. The headland genuinely is a delight, and it's full of history and charm. If you avoid the new town and you just go to the headland and the Royal Navy Museum, I think Hartlepool would actually genuinely make quite a nice weekend. This battery here was the only battlefield in Great Britain in World War I, now been turned into a museum. To summarise then, the new town in Hartlepool is a disaster thanks to deindustrialisation. When the steelworks closed in 1977, 1,500 people lost their jobs, and in the 80s, at one point, Hartlepool had more unemployed than any town in Britain. About 93,000 people currently live in Hartlepool, and of course they're not all bad, but the amount of litter, burnt out rows of houses and these grown men racing up and down on their bikes shows that there are some antisocial idiots who would probably even now hang a monkey if they were given the chance. Number 6, Ashington. Ashington is a town of around 28,000 that was once a centre for coal mining. Like many similar towns, it's gone into decline since the closure of said mines in the 1980s. I arrived under a battleship grey sky, believe it or not, this was July, I may have said that once or twice, to shuttered up shops and rows of terraced colliery workers' homes. So I'm actually editing this after recently posting part 1 of this series, and a lot of people in the comments have said number 1 should be Ashghanistan, which I think speaks for itself. Somebody's a big Doctor Who fan, perhaps. So we've got a boarded up pub here and roads and paving in terrible condition. Ashington has a huge sports heritage. Hurst Park here is where World Cup winning legends Bobby and Jack Charlton grew up playing football. There's a statue for Jack that you've just seen there, and some information on the two brothers. In 1926, during a miners' strike, locals lost their homes here and were forced to camp out cold and starving hungry on these playing fields. Ashington's crime rate is especially high for Northumberland, particularly petty crime like shoplifting. Most of the buildings are dull brown or grey rough cast, which really sort of adds to the gloomy ambience of the leaden sky. It's not particularly dirty, it just feels old and worn out, like a jaded alcoholic grandfather who's just lost his 3rd consecutive game of dominoes in the care home. That cat looks obese, I don't know what they've been feeding that on. Ashington is not a particularly nice looking town. I don't blame the local people for this, by the way. Ashington has been crapped on from above multiple times down the years, from the closing of the railway station to the closing of the mines and now the closing down of the shops, meaning the one thing the town does have, a community, is under threat too. Sweet Memories is the name of the sweet shop here on the left hand side, and we all love a bit of nostalgia, but I bet the residents of Ashington do so even more than most. However, Ashington has finally recently had some good news. The railway line to Newcastle has recently reopened, and £35 million is being invested into regenerating the town. Of course, what a council promises and what a council delivers are often two very different things, but a new railway line to Newcastle taking about 35 minutes each way is a good start. The high street did still have a few people about, and everyone seemed to know each other. Everyone was greeting each other with a big smile and a hello. And the best thing about the high street for me was you can get a hog roast and a gravy bap for a decent price, so it's not all bad. Ashington is a down-at-hill place that has been through a tough old time, but tough times make for tough people, and hopefully from here on out, it's only going to get better. Now, this is probably the smallest place I've appraised on these lists. Number 5 is Blackhall Colliery. About 5 miles north of Hartlepool, Blackhall Colliery, as the name would suggest, is a village built around a colliery. A colliery that, of course, no longer exists following its closure in 1981. I would tell you the population of the village, but I can't find it. It's not available online anywhere. At last count, a guesstimate in 2019 put it at just under 5,000. Middle Street is the main street and through road of the village with a couple of convenience stores and takeaways, and of course a barber. The streets aren't kept very clean, and most of the shops when I arrived were shuttered up. This was about 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. The old workers' houses are named 1st, 2nd, 3rd, etc. Street, and the officials lived in East Street. Nowadays, many of the houses are derelict. On the left there is an ornamental colliery wheel. It's extremely sad that these communities have worked so hard to make a living. Some 69 people died down in the mines in less than 100 years that they were open. And when they were no longer required, the communities were simply cut off and forgotten. I was here on a July Saturday afternoon in a heat wave. It was about 27 degrees, yet there was hardly anyone about apart from some teenagers smoking a spliff in a back alley. In 2019, something mysterious happened in Blackhall Colliery. Bags of money, usually £2,000 in £20 notes, kept turning up in random parts of the village. It says something about the honesty of the people here that they handed in at least 12 of these bags. Maybe it was a secret benefactor or philanthropist. Maybe it was someone testing people to see what they do, or maybe it was a drug dealer or a money launderer who had to get rid of it fast. Let me know in the comments what you'd do if you found £2,000 sitting on the side of the street. Blackhall Colliery is famous for the end scene in Get Carter, where they're on the beach and Michael Caine gets, spoiler alert, shot by the sniper. There's not much to show you here. There's no supermarket, there's no football grounds, there's no big churches or anything like that. Just the beach, and there's one hotel in the town which I forgot to show you. Number 4, Middlesbrough, formerly known as Ironopolis, a town that rose quickly and has fallen at almost the same pace. The highest level of knife crime outside of London. In a town of around 180,000, there's a lot to unpick here, so I'm going to do this journal style. So I arrived on a bus which drops you off into pretty much the town centre around Captain Cook Square, a kind of standard 70s shopping area and bus station. The bus station was a proper throwback, especially with this kiosk advertising ciggies, helium balloons and hen party accessories. There's some large buildings here befitting of a town of Middlesbrough size, but it doesn't take long before you're in amongst the boarded up areas. By the way, before I forget, I know Middlesbrough is technically in North Yorkshire, but to my mind it's culturally more northeast, so it's in here on this list, and if you don't like it, feel free to whine in the comments and be ignored. Now, I don't believe anyone actually has tuna, cheese and beans in their jacket spud, do they? Let me know in the comments if any of you animals do. We were on Borough Road here. I got chatting to a random girl by the mural that I was taking a video of, and I asked her where was good to see in Borough, and she told me none of it, and that I should leave as soon as possible. I asked, is it that bad? And she said, worse. The crime rate really is shocking, especially violent crime. Now, this is the very town centre of Borough. In 1801, Middlesbrough had a population of just 25. Due to its position east of the Darlington and Stockton Railway, it became heavily industrialised with shipping staiths built on the River Tees at what was initially called Port Darlington. A few years later, an iron took over, when Borough started to become known as Ironopolis. Later on, steel became very important too, with the Tyne Bridge and the Sydney Harbour Bridge all being built in Borough. In World War II, Borough was the first major town to be bombed by the Germans, and was frequently targeted throughout. In the post-war years, redevelopment took place in the usual functional but not aesthetically pleasing way. More economic decline since then, and well, this is the result: modern day Middlesbrough. Parliament Road was once full of proud, hard-working folk. It's now described by a headline in the Economic Times as UK's most crime-infested, filthy street where drug lords rule and people defecate openly. A lady there in her pink dressing gown at midday on a weekday. Why not? People say that Parliament Road is a no-go zone after 6 p.m. Crime is rife, businesses have to board up their shops, people avoid going out after dark. It seemed fairly calm during the day, just another street full of Euro convenience stores and Turkish or Arab barbers, but I wasn't coming back down here at 9 p.m. to find out what it was like then. A fat grass, a queen on the grass, the grass, and barbed wire on top of the wall. A nice little railway mural here, but the rest of this area is grim, grimy, and it looks like nothing good has happened here in a long time. The Middlesbrough taxi's distinctive yellow and black was pretty cool, but the buildings around them looked like they were made out of papier-mâché. The BBC building probably looked avant-garde when it was built, back when flares were in fashion. Hill Street Shopping Centre has a lot of units closed down, including M&S of course. It's not the largest shopping centre in Borough, to be fair. That would be the Cleveland Shopping Centre, which is much nicer. The old arcade that I'm going to show you now is very sad too, but at least the empty units do have a bit of colour. A third shopping centre, the Dundas Shopping Centre, is like a ghost town. There's something about harsh artificial light and no people around that makes me kind of uneasy, which is probably why I was thrusting the camera to and fro the way I was. Out the back of that shopping centre is the A66, and underneath it lies this. Every single business shuttered up. Absolutely grim. The Wall of Kindness is for people to leave clothing and bits and pieces for rough sleepers. Nearby to this is Middlesbrough railway station, close to what would have been important buildings, and now even some of these are closed off. We're heading north now, closer to the docks. Not many people about here either. This is coming up the new Boho area, which is like Middlesbrough's answer to Silicon Valley, a bunch of modern buildings devoted to digital and tech companies that have reportedly worked with some pretty prestigious companies. Next to that is a wasteland with horses. I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, and a big part of me just wanted to rescue these horses and put them in a nice field somewhere rather than this desolate wasteland. The old town hall was built in 1846 and went derelict exactly 150 years later in 1996. The National Lottery have pledged £230,000 to restore it and make it into an office for digital startup companies. That was a year ago and nothing has happened yet. I wonder how much of that 230 grand has been spaffed in the planning stages. Laughing gas, because why not? There's not much else around here to laugh about. The customs house here was nice, built in 1837, but I really wanted to see the transport... bugger. It's been closed a while now due to severe structural and safety concerns. The visitor centre is still open though, if you want to go and have a look. After that we go down Vulcan Road to the Dock Clock Tower, which only had the clock face on 3 sides, so the dockers couldn't clock watch while they were on shift. The Temenos sculpture is kind of hard to describe. I'd recommend seeing it for yourselves. So the docks are here, and so is the Riverside Stadium, home of Middlesbrough FC. Their main rivals are Newcastle and Sunderland, which is probably where I got the idea of them being North East more than Yorkshire. When this stadium opened, Borough were riding the crest of a wave, bankrolled by local businessman Steve Gibson and signing world-class players like Emerson, Juninho and Fabrizio Ravanelli. Borough have punched well above their weight for a town of 180,000 and even recently won a League Cup and reached a Europa League final in 2006. At the time making this video, they won their first 4 games in the second tier and are top of the table. This is the old stadium, Ayresome Park, with some old seats and a bit of info there. And these are the old gates coming up here. The Boho project has a presence here in the very modern college nearby to the Riverside Stadium. It's a shame that these hopeful messages have been scribbled over. The Lord Byron pub has been closed for over 6 years. Somebody needs to tell Middlesbrough Council that Borough is a town, not a city. Back in town, and this is the 19-storey Centre North East. You notice it's not called the Centre Yorkshire. And this is one side of the town hall here. And just down from there on the same street is the Empire Theatre, with events that I would actually go to. Like they're over 30s friendly. I wouldn't go to see Slipknot, but the name is bloody brilliant, so fair play to them for that. And I love all these little details you don't get on modern buildings. La Pharmacie has said au revoir, as have many businesses along here. And it's just disaster, isn't it? And yeah, just one after the other, and I don't even know what to say about this. Look at it. What a mess. Why is that still there? Oh well, at least the Odeon's doing alright. So we head to the cultural and the civic quarter here. We've got a great statue of a mum here separating 2 scrapping children. Faces only a mother could love. Don't worry, they're not real people, are they? This sculpture is called the Bottle of Notes. And this part of Borough is actually pretty nice. It was a scorching day as well. It was about 28 degrees. The MIMA Art Gallery is very popular. Second only in popularity to MDMA in Middlesbrough. This is the public library. Again, very popular. Back in the town centre, and it's quiet around Debenhams. No fun and no scran to be had around here. Captain Cook Square is named after the famous naval officer. He was born in Marton, but he was made in the Royal Navy. He circumnavigated New Zealand, mapped the Great Barrier Reef in Newfoundland, and discovered Hawaii before being killed by the natives there. The square wasn't that exciting, but it did have level X with games like Gutterball and Breakbox and other stuff I haven't got a clue about. This building is off limits, and so is this wooden thing, and so is this sofa. These streets are around the university, and look at that, from £35 per week. Finished with your mattress, just chuck it down there with a TV you haven't used since 2002. By contrast, the university was very modern, and guess what? It was only bloody graduation day. There were jubilant scenes all over. Now that these people have graduated, they can get out of Middlesbrough and never come back. I jest, of course. It's actually a really nice looking university. Then you go back into the town and what a come down. A dump, a dive, What the hell is that in the window? Oh, it's just a mannequin. Look at this view. Pants. Albert Park is pretty nice. The Brian Clough statue has had to be fenced off to stop the vandals. There's a sundial here and the Stanley E. Hollis Memorial, a Borough lad who was awarded the Victoria Cross for his unbelievably heroic actions on D-Day. By now I'd pretty much seen all I wanted to or needed to in Borough, but there's one last thing. I just wanted to see a bit more of the River Tees. So the port of Middlesbrough there is huge and you can't go in, so I went to the Dino Park instead. Did you know the woolly mammoth can eat up to 20 hours a day? It didn't say how many hours it spent shitting and sleeping. And this one looks like he's shitting already, or at least he's letting out a long fart. Right, here we go on the Teesdale Way and the England Coast Path. What wonders will we find? Well, industrial sites, that's to be expected. What else? Horses. More bloody horses in places they shouldn't be. This genuinely did make me feel sad. It says here on this bin that it's grim up north. I personally think there's just as many grim places down south, but very few as grim as Middlesbrough. Let's leave this place right now. All we've got to do is hop over this bridge and we're safely away in County Durham. Number 3, Horden. Now, Horden has been in the media a lot in the last few years. YouTubers like Wendell and Bald and Bankrupt are here, and the national media have visited The Sun with a typically disgusting headline calling Horden a crack-ravaged zombie town. Now, to start off on my visit, it seemed fairly normal, but it didn't take long for the cracks to start to show. According to the Northern Echo, 1 of every 10 homes are abandoned in Horden, but it looked the other way around. It looked like only 1 out of 10 were occupied. It's the same sad story. The mines closed in the 80s and the town has been forgotten about by successive governments. Horden once had the world record for amount of steel produced in an hour. And at one time, 6,750 tonnes of coal were mined in a single day. And that's all mined by hand. The underground mine shafts went out 5 miles into the North Sea. Now, this once proud town is just a shell of what it used to be. Into the dark, indeed. Up and down the country, there's a housing crisis. Not enough homes, and the ones that are on the market are too expensive for anyone to buy. Here in Horden, homes start at about 10 grand, and there's loads of them available. If only there was some work around here that people could do. Horden is also notorious for its fake doors. So you see these doors here, painted on. Supposedly to make the place look nicer and maybe attract some investment. See the blue doors? Painted on. Why they painted blue doors here with busted out windows on the top is anyone's guess. There is a church here, as you can see, and a Horden branch of Sunderland AFC football supporters. Residents complain that local council are unhelpful, and it's clear that Horden is just far enough away from London that the government can just forget about it. The Conservative Club, much like the party itself, has seen better days. A parade of naff shops here, someone else's grass, and the wall was scraped off into the shape of Africa. Of course, even Horden isn't safe from the Turkish barbers. Some scandalous graffiti coming up, but it took me ages to find this spot. I was in Horden early morning, so I can't say whether these places are open or not. The Welfare Park here was opened in 1929. It's paid for by the Miners' Fund, and it's one of the few places that's been invested in recently thanks to the Lottery Fund. The statue coming up here depicts a miner whose heart has been ripped out, embodying the community and the sentiment that the heart has been ripped out of it. The statue is simply called Mara, a local word similar to mate, pal or workmate. This is some wasteland up on the cliff and an ornamental colliery wheel similar to what we saw in Blackhall Colliery. An entire house has gone missing here. Still got a sky dish though. Not sure when the last time Horden celebrated a victory. This is the memorial clock in the Memorial Park. There's one supermarket in the town, Aldi, and technically that's in Peterlee. If there was a savvy investor out there, Horden could be turned into a massive co-working or remote working space with all these empty buildings. After all, it does have this beautiful beach, and by train it's only about 20 minutes to Sunderland and about 40 minutes to Newcastle. Number 2, and I did just hint at it, it's Peterlee. Peterlee is a new town. Most of the architecture is ghastly. Peterlee was founded in 1948 and is named after the popular ex-leader of the Durham miners, Mr. Peterlee, who actually passed away in 1935. It was designed for 30,000 people. It never reached that many, and in 2025 it has around 20,000 inhabitants. The town was actually requested, almost demanded, by the local colliery workers who were living in poor conditions in places that we've seen like Horden and Blackhall. Now clearly in this weather it's going to be grim, but this was next level. Somebody had left their horse and cart tied up outside of Wetherspoons. What is it about horses in this episode? Then you've got this horrible bleak skyline out the back here. There are a few facilities like the library and the leisure centre, but nothing to write home about. A functional looking church and a youth centre. The shopping precinct was the usual stuff, some open, some shut, but this was Sunday in Peterlee's defence. Peterlee, the place to be, reads the art on the wall. I guess this is the place not to be as it's fenced off. The shopping centre is, typical new town stuff, 70s architecture, and then there's the mega brutal structure in the middle. In a nation full of crap town centres, Peterlee has outdone itself. Our fun begins today. Not without you. I don't know about you, but it doesn't look like she's having much fun. She's closing her eyes and dreaming of being somewhere, anywhere, other than Peterlee. Wake up, we're still here. And I feel the need to say this again. This is July in England, folks. Gorgeous. We've avoided it long enough then, so let's head to the brown, brutalist bad boy. A quick look back at the precinct and denied. We can't get in, so we'll have a look around. Creepy balloon. Wow, we actually looks like we might be able to get in that little hole there. Okay, we could definitely get in, but I don't want to. So that's Lee House, the largest building in town by far, and it's been derelict for 10 years now. According to reports, it's a hotbed for crime, underage drinking and drugs. There's more empty units and houses for sale here for rock bottom prices. The Kurdish Barbers here stands alone amongst all the boarded up buildings, including the brown thing at the end, whatever this was once upon a time. In fact, if anyone can tell me in the comments what it was, I'd appreciate it. Vibe nightclub is the only one in the town. A Google review reads, "If you consider a sticky floor and a lack of any discernible vibe to be highlights, it was like stepping back in time to a nightclub from the 90s, but without the good music or friendly faces." More brown buildings. I mean, what is it with the brown in this town? We head out of town now, past what was presumably formerly known as Tweed Close. And I can't help but think these 4-storey apartment blocks are bizarre. I mean, what's the point? You could fit 4 detached houses in that space and have room for gardens front and back. And I'm not sure that smashing the whole gaff up is going to help either. We finally come to Apollo's Pavilion. Yeah, baby. built in 1969 by Victor Passmore, who had this to say about it. An architecture and sculpture of purely abstract form through which to walk, in which to linger, and on which to play. A free and anonymous monument which, because of its independence, can lift the activity and psychology of an urban housing community onto a universal plane. David on Google Review says, "Some say it is art, fart more like." Let me know in the comments, is this art or is it fart? Locals complain that this too is a hub for antisocial activity, drug taking, underage drinking, etc. I was there about 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, so all those people are probably still in bed at that point. I did notice one elderly gentleman said good morning. He sort of looked at me and then looked away again. I don't know if he thought I was one of the antisocial people or if he was the antisocial one. So we head back to the town centre a different way, and I still didn't find anything nice. So we'll go to the bus stop as there's no railway station. The nearest one is actually in Horden. And I should let you know here, folks, the reason that there's only 19 on this list instead of the usual 20. So I planned to go to Easington Colliery after already having been to Horden and Peterlee that day, and I just couldn't bring myself to vlog another ex-mining village. It was starting to rain and vlogging in these places was no joy at all. I genuinely feel bad for the people that have to live in these towns and villages and the shitty hand that they have been dealt. And I also feel sorry for anyone who has to live in Number 1, Stockton-on-Tees. Stockton is across the water from Thornaby, and looking over from the Thornaby side of the Tees towards it, it didn't look too bad at all. The riverside is actually being done up at the moment. Well, that just proves that you can't rely on a first impression. So this is the town centre of Stockton, and as you can see, it has some historic buildings. One of the historical highlights is the Globe Theatre, which has been lovingly restored in recent years. It was originally built in 1913, knocked down and rebuilt in 1935, and after being closed for 24 years, it was sorted out and reopened in 2021. The opening concert was by McFly. There's a Hall of Fame here for some of the legends that have played here, Buddy Holly, the Bee Gees, Morecambe and Wise, Cliff Richard, Cilla Black, and the Beatles were playing here the very same day that JFK was shot, so a double reason to remember that day for anyone in attendance. The Manhattan's nightclub here looks more like Harlem in the 1970s. There's a nice hotel here, closed down. Almost every business here, closed down. The Theatre Hotel, closed down. Just about everything along here closed down. There's a place along here that used to rent out rooms for 20 quid a night, and that's also closed down. The Buff Social Club, and that one's actually open. Well, that's Norton Road anyway, a bit grim, but it's not quite worst place material just yet. Welcome to Stockton, and here's the Moon Palace next to the rising sun. Here we have some lovely matching kicked-in windows, his and hers. Wellington Square is the 70s style shopping precinct. B&M, Barclays Boots, Card Factory, Claire's Accessories, Hayes Travel, Heron Foods, Holland Barrett Savers, JD Sports, Poundland and Specsavers, etc. The usual stuff. The best thing in Stockton is this. At 1:06 every day, the Stockton Flyer rises from a plinth in the town centre. It's a depiction of locomotion number 1, the old Darlington to Stockton Railway. If you'd like to see the whole thing, it's on my second channel. I'll put the details in the description. Back to town then, and you know it's bad when even the Costa is shut down. The other main features in town are the fountain, town hall, and a small flea market. Great. Here's me thinking there weren't enough vape shops. This end of the high street has bar. And what wonders will we find down this alley? Oh, it's going to be a bar. It's going to be called Brod or Brud's Bar. What goes on here then? Let's have a look. Some super strength alcohol and some rubbish and burnt stuff and laughing gas canisters. What a surprise. Some proper good scran here for good prices. I'm not sure why the braised steak is the same price as corned beef slice, however. Around the corner and it's just all gone to pot, hasn't it? Look at it, what a mess. Everything just closed down. Look at this, a taste of Italy. Yeah, all right, more like a taste of The cedars smashed up. Vintage cars. Mockbuster Video. That was a 90s theme bar and arcade. It looks like it's closed, or maybe they just don't check their post. Let me know in the comments. This is still in a town centre, just crap all over the place. Here we have a reward for being obese. It's not all bad in Stockton, at least it's colourful here in Hambleton Yard. The Regency West Mall, or Wet Mall, whatever it's called, looked better on the inside than it did on the out, although everything was closed by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This fella looks like he weighs more than 25 stone. Can he eat for free? These businesses look nice, but they're also closed at 4 in the afternoon. There was litter everywhere on these streets. It's like everyone had given up. A town of 85,000 and a town centre that looked like this. Pants. The next morning it was practically deserted. This is the main square again at 9 o'clock in the morning. The only place that was in business is Paul and Danny's very cheap and cheerful burger van. Look at those prices. Even Betfred have moved out, but don't worry, they've still got 5 more shops in the area. Bookies, of course, are thriving predominantly off the working class man's money. This is a John Walker tavern, which is named after the man who invented the match. Match is in what you start a fire with, which is ironic because in June 2025, there were 11 arson attacks in Stockton in just 48 hours. So here we've got a small riverside retail park, Mecca Bingo, and then the university buildings that are already showing signs of wear and tear. Just look at the colours of the boards next to the windows there. Stockton is rough, has very high crime rates, and is my #1 worst place in northeast England. Oh, and look, there's matey boy scratching his arse again. Well, that's the end of the video. It's been a real eye-opener visiting the northeast of England and seeing just how forgotten some of these places are. But despite it all, the people are the salt of the earth and the foundation for so much that's good in this country. Please do remember to subscribe. We'll be heading to Bonnie, Scotland in the next lot of videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.